Welcome to Simply Bitcoin. We break down the news from Twitter, the daily fail, meme review, software releases, hardware releases, websites by plebes or plebs. Today we've got both of them, software releases and the website. Anyways, we're going to the numbers. Let's do it.
Number time!
Sponsored by Bitcoin 2022.
At the time of this recording, the block height is 703,737. The Bitcoin price, 51,400. Chain rewrite days, 841. Total public lightning capacity, 2,985.42. Sats per dollar, look at us below 2K, 1,944. And the blocks to the halvening, 136,263, Nico.
Dude.
So look.
I think we're right. I think there it is again. Our pattern, bro. Our pattern. We got
terrible.
We got a bump. We got a bump in the public Lightning Network capacity. We got a bump in the Kaka price. For anyone who's new to the channel, the Kaka price is the fiat to Bitcoin price, right? That is the noise. The signal is the Lightning Network capacity. And the Lightning Network capacity took a little bit of a tumble, right? Which kind of makes sense if you compare it to all the other days. You know, so I don't know, dude. I think we're on to something.
Yesterday, Nico.
I know.
Yesterday.
I know. Yesterday ruined
Just saying.
But now our TA of the public lightning capacity is back on track.
So we're good again. Our numbers, so our lines are good again, right?
No, but
but really, this is what it is. You know what I mean? You make a call every single day. You're bound to be right a certain portion of the time.
A clock, a broken clock is right twice a day. So that's true. Right. That is true. But you know what, though, Phil? That the Moscow time, aka the Sats per dollar, that felt really good to be under 2K again.
You know what? I think we were asked, why don't we refer to Sats per dollar as Moscow time? And we do apologize. I call it Sats per dollar. When we get our dashboard, we're gonna figure out if we can rename it or put like a mask label on top of it that just says Moscow time.
I think it's a good idea.
That's exactly what it is.
It is. It is the Moscow time. It is. I feel bad for like anyone who's new to the channel. Be like, what the F are they talking about? Like, what does that mean? You know. So for anyone who doesn't. For anyone who doesn't know, the Moscow time is the Sats per dollar. If you want to know why, comment down below and I'll explain it to you because it's going to take a while. But anyways, it was just some miscommunication on Twitter from some mainstream media guys trying to decipher what was going on in the back of Jack Dorsey's Zoom call or whatever call, you know, when he was testifying in front of some politicians. And
what was it, 1942?
Yeah, 1942.
Something like that.
So stupid. But yes, that is Moscow time is the Sats per dollar. That's what it means. But again, that's the noise. The signal here, again, is the Lightning Network capacity. And again, we might be onto something, Phil. When the Bitcoin price pumps, it looks like, except for yesterday, it looks like the Lightning Network capacity might take a little bit of a tumble, or maybe not. We'll see. But anyways, Phil, it's time for
the Daily Fail, sponsored by
Pirate Ash.
This is a bit of an unusual fail, but I ask for everyone to follow along with me. It does tie into Bitcoin, but what we have to do is we have to zoom out and we got to take a look at the picture and, you know, essentially see what they're painting for us. What am I talking about? The leaked records open a Pandora box of financial secrets, right? All right, so we heard about this a couple of days ago. No, actually yesterday. Bitcoin time screws me up. One day feels like 3 days. I apologize. Anyways, let's dive into this, okay? Hundreds of world leaders, powerful politicians, billionaires, celebrities, religious leaders, drug dealers have been hiding their investments in mansions, exclusive beachfront property, yachts, other assets for the past quarter century, according to a review of nearly 12 million files obtained from 14 firms located around the world. Just keep in mind, right, I know that this may seem it's unrelated, but just, right, we have the debt ceiling stupidity that's coming up in a few days and stuff like that, and it's just very interesting, right, that this drops right now. And keep in mind, right, there's a lot more noise around the money printing. There's a lot more noise around what's going on at the IMF, right? So it's interesting that these papers drop right now. But I digress and we continue. The report released Sunday by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists involved 600 journalists from 150 media outlets in 117 countries. It's being dubbed the Pandora Papers because the findings shed light on the previously hidden dealings of the elite and the corrupt. Oh, yeah, I'm sure that previously hidden. And how they have used offshore accounts to shield assets collectively worth trillions of dollars. Now, really? How many of our listeners are not aware that the elite have offshore assets? This is again, right? It's a show. We're watching a show, and they're painting a picture. Okay? Anyways, the billionaires called out in the report include Turkish construction mogul Ermin Ilkak, and Robert T. Brockman, the former CEO of software maker Reynolds and Reynolds. Many of the accounts were designed to evade taxes, conceal assets for other shady reasons, according to the report. Yeah. The new data leak, and I'm not condoning any of their behavior. I'm just saying, like, pay attention to the wording, right? They want to imply and create that story, right? That they're doing something wrong, and look, we're outing this. Okay, the new data leak must be a wake-up call, said Sven Giegold, a Green Party lawmaker in the European Parliament. Global tax evasion fuels global inequality. We need to expand and sharpen the countermeasures now because we don't print money out of thin air.
Dude, it's crazy because, and then you could tie this up with the $600 that Biden wants to monitor. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's crazy because the global inequality isn't caused by this. The global inequality is caused by the fiat money printer itself. But of course, they're never going to talk about that.
And not only that, but purposely excluding countries from the monetary system, or we'd say the prime monetary system of the world. Anyways, let's continue. Let's continue the noise. Oxfam International, a British consortium of charities, applauded the Pandora Papers for exposing brazen examples of greed that deprived countries of tax revenue that could be used to finance programs and projects for the greater good. Yeah, that's it. That's the problem. But wait, Nico, there's so much more to this crap. This is where our missing hospitals are, because we don't print money out of thin air. This is where the missing hospitals are, Nico, Oxfam said in a statement. This is where the pay packet sits of all the extra teachers and firefighters, public servants we need. Whenever a politician or business leader claims there is no money to pay for climate damage and innovation, for more and better jobs, for a fair post-COVID recovery, for more overseas aid, they know where to look. The Pandora Papers are a follow-up to a similar project released in 2016 called the Panama Papers, compiled by the same journalistic group. The Panama Papers, right? Okay. Anyways, 2016. Let's just remember that while we continue. The latest investigation dug into accounts registered in familiar offshore havens, including the British Virgin Islands, Seychelles, Hong Kong, Belize. But some of the secret accounts were also scattered around in trusts set up in the U.S., including 81 in South Dakota, 37 in Florida. Okay, so, they're setting the landscape. They're letting us know it's all over the place. For instance, the investigation found advisors helped King Abdullah II of Jordan set up at least 36 shell companies from 1995 to 2017, helping the monarch buy 14 homes worth more than $106 million in the U.S. and the U.K. One was $23 million California Ocean View property bought in 2017 through a British Virgin Islands company. The advisors were identified as an English accountant in Switzerland and lawyers in the British Virgin Islands. Okay, so this is not unusual stuff. Okay, this is really not unusual. The Blairs and the Al-Zayanis both said they didn't initially know that the other party was involved in the deal the probe found. Okay, now essentially what they're talking about is that Blair, UK Prime Minister from 1997 to 2007, became the owner of an $8.8 million Victorian building in 2017 by buying a British Virgin Islands company that held the property. And the building now hosts the law firm of his wife. According to the investigation, the two bought the company from the family of Bahrain's industry and tourism minister Zayed Ben Rashid Al Zayani. Buying the company shares instead of the London building saved the Blairs more than $400,000 in property taxes, the investigation found. Okay. The Blairs and the Al-Zayanis both said they didn't initially know that the other party was involved in the deal the probe found. That doesn't really matter. I mean, who really, at the end of the day, who gives a shit, right? Rich people buying and selling stuff to each other. I mean, it really doesn't make a difference whether they're rich or poor. Who cares? Okay? Sherry Blair said her husband wasn't involved in the purchase, which she said was meant to bring the company and the building back into the UK regulatory regime. She also said she didn't want to own British Virgin Islands company, that the seller of their own purposes only wanted to sell the company, which is now closed. Okay. Khan, the Pakistani prime minister, is not accused of any wrongdoing, but members of his inner circle, including finance minister Shaukat Fayaz Ahmad Tareen, are accused of hiding millions of dollars in wealth in secret companies or trusts, according to the journalist findings. Okay, so I mean, like, look, this is just a whole lot of noise, a whole bunch of, rich people that just have a whole bunch of money hidden away. Okay. The consortium of journalists revealed Putin's image maker and chief executive of Russia's leading TV station, Konstantin Ernst, got a discount to buy and develop Soviet-era cinemas. So it's very interesting, right? Because what happens is, and I'm not condoning this, and I'm not saying that, like, this is exactly what happened, but a lot of times, okay, you go and you hire people to go and find investments for you, and they come back to you with ideas, and you say yay or nay, and then they go off and do it. And you don't, to a certain extent, you don't actually know what you own. Okay, and this is, and essentially these papers are being brought out to make it seem like there's something really big going on. Okay, seem that way. Anyways, in 2009, Czech Prime Minister Andrej Babis put 22 million into shell companies to buy a chateau property in a hilltop village in Mougins, France. Near Cannes, the investigation found the shell company and the chateau were not disclosed in Babis required asset declarations, according to documents obtained by the journalism group's Czech partner. Okay, so look, we're going through all of this stuff, and we're remembering the Panama Papers, right? The Panama Papers came out April 3rd, 2016. These papers that they're talking about, they're calling the Pandora Papers, okay? Well, let's go take a look. April 2nd, 2016. This is the day before the Panama Papers came out. Let's take a look at this. Greek government debt crisis. Day before. Greece demands an explanation from the International Monetary Fund after an apparent leaked transcript suggested the IMF may threaten to pull out of the economy's bailout as a tactic to force European lenders to offer more debt relief. Whistleblowing site WikiLeaks published what it said was the transcript of a March 19th conference call of 3 senior IMF officials discussing tactics to apply pressure on Greece, Germany, and EU. So, you see, this is very interesting, right? Because right now, everybody's really paying attention to the money printing, right? They're having a lot of problems passing that bill. And again, I'm not saying that it's necessarily related, right? They're trying to, like, they're showing that there's a whole big problem and all of this. This is all theater that we're watching, okay? But it's very interesting that in 2016, the IMF was getting essentially pressure from Greece, and poof, they come out with the Panama Papers, which all of a sudden shifts the attention. And now, here we are, and they come out with the Pandora Papers, which, once again, shifts the attention. So, man, the fail is really just, what they're trying to do to our perception. Okay, and they think that people can't pull together all the dots and the points, but we can.
Dude, it's just one.
Did it make sense?
No, it made absolute sense, man. And it's look, I forget who I get this from, but he says there's no conspiracies, but there's also no coincidences. Okay, so it's awfully convenient, for for this information to come up with the IMF trying to apply pressure, and then these papers that could potentially implicate a lot of these politicians. And look, let me explain something to you guys about trust, right? Because I worked in commercial real estate before this. Okay, the reason that you don't want to have a property under your name, right? And I never recommended that to any of my clients in real estate, is because you're liable if anyone sues you to that property, right? So you always want to put the property under an LLC, under a trust. So for high net worth individuals, it is not out of the ordinary whatsoever for them to put the property under a trust or to put the property under an LLC, especially an LLC located overseas. That actually protects you a lot from litigation, because if you potentially get sued in the United States and they look up the properties that are under your name, all of a sudden in the lawsuit, they can go after those properties. So a way that wealthy people protect their assets is to put those properties under an LLC. Now, I'm not saying any of these wealthy people did anything sketchy or didn't do anything sketchy. All we're pointing out is that it's very convenient that this has happened 2 years in a row. And then if you're reading the article from ABC, right, they were using the same language to try to justify this bill that the Biden administration is trying to pass. Again, we're apolitical on this show, right? We don't lean left, we don't lean right, but we do stand for personal freedom. And I think personal freedom definitely gets trampled on when the federal government wants to see every single transaction that you make for $600, right? They're trying to scapegoat and saying, look, it's the rich people that are doing something wrong. They have to be blamed. Let me tell you something, okay? The 1% of the United States pays for about 30% of the tax revenue. Okay, and you hear this, a lot of the propaganda from, not propaganda, but I guess political rhetoric, right? Saying, listen, the rich need to pay their fair share, but they're not talking about the fact that the wealth inequality, right, is really caused by the fiat money printer.
Bingo.
45% of this country could not afford to save their wealth in equities, did not afford to save their wealth in real estate, so they save their wealth in cash, and that cash is constantly losing value, and that value is getting transferred from the poor and the middle class, which they can't afford to lose, and it's getting transferred to the top 1%, and more importantly, the state. So I agree with you, Phil. We can't confirm any of this. We're just trying to point out some facts, right? That, again, it's awfully convenient that this stuff comes out, a couple days before the state, the Biden administration is having debacles with their money printing, right? Everyone's starting to notice, like, what's going on with inflation? Where are you going to pay for this $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill? And again, we want to specify we're apolitical. Both parties do the same thing when they're in power, right? It just happens to be that the Democrats are in power right now, right? So again, it's awfully convenient, right? And again, like, look, one time you could have said, oh, that's just a coincidence, but 2 times, that the papers happen to come out, the days that they're actually having trouble, financially, like, man, like, what's going on here? And then what really puts the cherry on top is the wording from the ABC article, because they're saying, oh, that those funds could have been redirected to climate. They could have been redirected if you gave us bureaucrats more power to surveil what you're doing. But again, that's not true, because they could just print more money to pay for all of those things in the first place, right? So again, they conveniently leave that out, right? So very interesting, Phil, to say the least.
Yeah, man. All of this, like, while you were talking about this, it also got me thinking, right? Them coming out with all of this stuff, maybe it's kind of a warning to all of these countries, like, we've got more data than this. You know what I mean? Like, again, we don't understand the grand scheme of things. But
and it's convenient.
It's very convenient.
And it's convenient because no Western politicians from the money printer countries are mentioned in those papers. Right? Like, why is that? It's always Russia. It's always this. It's always this. It's always this country. But again, it's none of, the countries, right? And I'm sure those wealthy people do the same thing, but they're conveniently left out of those articles, of those papers, right? So anyways, listen, guys, we can't confirm anything for sure. We're just trying to connect the dots. We'll let you guys be the judge. We're just trying to give you a different outlook than what the mainstream media is trying to pitch you. But anyways, Phil, it's time for
the Daily Meme Review, sponsored by
Citadel 21.
All right, everybody, check out the memes for today. First memes brought to us by a fellow plebe, Nick Can't Mine. Anyways, check it out. Dad, stuff is going down in Normieland. Don't worry, son. We have Bitcoin. Amazing.
Did you say stuff?
Yeah, I didn't want to say the bad word. So Dad. Dad, shit's going down in Normanland. Don't worry, son. We have Bitcoin. Anyways, moving on to the next one. Greg, idiots. Who wants Bitcoin to go to 1 million? Yay! Who wants Bitcoin? Who wants to buy Bitcoin at 50K? Nobody. It's so true, dude. It's like you get the text messages when Bitcoin reaches an all-time high, and they're like, I'm buying Bitcoin now. But when it's like nice and low, you know, whether it's at 30K, whether it's at 10K, whether it's at 1K, no one listened to me. Anyways, moving on. Awesome meme. Very, very deep. And for that, I'm going to give it very interesting score, Phil. A finger strengthener. You put all your fingers in here, and then you stretch them out. Yep. They make your fingers stronger, I think. Maybe. I don't know. What about you, Phil? What would you give that meme?
Dude, that's like one of those office things. You know, like that's like a typical office thing that you need to have, you know? It's anyways, it's great. I have a set of those too, sadly. Anyways, great memes, all great, and I am giving it the massager, the backing massager to my chair.
Phil got a new chair, and that's the new back massager. Awesome. Okay, awesome cool. Scores, finger strengthener, a chair massager for those awesome memes. Anyways, guys, do you agree with our scores? Do you disagree? Let us know down in the comments, and join our Telegram group, because we need Bitcoin memes from plebs to review. Anyways, Phil, it's time for
the Daily News, sponsored by
Crypto Cloaks.
Yesterday, we saw Facebook get taken off the internet. I don't know why it went down, but I know that for more than 5 hours, Facebook wasn't used to deepen divides, destabilize democracies, destabilize democracies, destabilize democracies.
So, just to kind of give you reference, right? Project Veritas has released many whistleblowers in the past, and of Facebook conveniently censoring, whether that's political opposition, right, or whatever. And none of those got the royal treatment of being asked to testify in front of Congress, and none of those whistleblowers got asked to speak in front of 60 Minutes, right? Conveniently, it happens to be the whistleblower that is actually asking the federal government, which is completely against the First Amendment, to censor Americans more. And again, I just want to specify what she says: destabilizing a democracy. I want you guys to remember that, okay? Check this out. You know what they also accuse Nayib Bukele, which has one of the highest approval ratings in Latin America? Nayib Bukele is wrecking democracy in El Salvador. It looks like they're conveniently using that phrase, wrecking democracy, right? We got someone asking for more censorship because it's wrecking democracy. But hey, don't believe me. Check out this video from Gigi, and I'll let you guys be the judge.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility
is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about trouble and trend of irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and false
news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 You get it? Do you get it yet? Do you get it yet?
This is disgusting.
If it's a threat to the powers that be, then it's extremely dangerous to the democracy, right? Exactly what they called Nayib Bukele for choosing, right, to implement Bitcoin as legal tender. Then all of a sudden you started getting a lot of news from the mainstream media, and this is exactly the wording that the Facebook whistleblower is using to call for more censorship. They don't want you to have your own ideas. They don't want you to talk publicly. And let me explain to you why this is happening. Let me be very clear, okay? The internet disintermediated and also destroyed the government's monopoly on information. Remember the WMDs? Remember that? Mm-hmm. Why do you think they were able to do that? Because they controlled the New York Times, they controlled the mainstream media, and they were able to sell the public a narrative, right? Now, why are they going after Nayib Bukele? Again, because governments used to have a total monopoly on the creation of money. Then all of a sudden, Bitcoin came into play, and you had a very brave politician, right, Nayib Bukele, to essentially get off under the heel of, you know, the dollar hegemony and say, listen, I'm going to use Bitcoin. And all of a sudden, he's dangerous to democracy. And all of a sudden, the people that have dissenting opinions, they're dangerous to democracy as well. So governments found themselves in this very precarious situation where they lost their monopoly on information and they lost their monopoly on money. So their go-to is all these things that help the individual are now conveniently dangerous to democracy. And if that doesn't scare the living shit out of you, that more than 100 news channels are using word for word the exact wording, reading off a script, man, that is absolutely terrifying. And remember, this is an individual, and I brought more receipts, so I'm going to dig deeper. I always bring receipts, guys. This is Simply Bitcoin. We always bring receipts. This is crazy. And this is why Bitcoin is important. Because it can't be censored, it's neutral, and it really believes in the fundamental building block that made America great. Freedom of speech. The freedom to transact. Because the person that censors, these news channels that say, if you don't get our information from us, it's dangerous for democracy, they're the ones dictating the narrative. They don't want you thinking for yourself. In fact, the New York Times recently came out with an article, which I'll pop up right here. It says, don't go into the rabbit hole. Critical thinking is dangerous for the powers that be, and they don't want you to do that. It's very bad for them. Anyways, Phil.
I'm like, don't get me wrong, I'm obviously not shocked at all, but what we have to remember is that the mainstream media is owned by very few people, okay? And these people, I mean, the proof is in the pudding, right? Obviously, their message is aligned, okay? And this is again, this goes back to the dangerous wording, right? Like, you know, danger, you know, right? Wrecking democracy. I mean, like, why don't we think about what, you know, like, essentially they're creating these links, you know, like they're trying to create these links between feelings, emotions, and specific words. And you know, kind of anyways, it's very dangerous. That's all I have to say. I don't know, you know, I mean, I understand they're trying to poison everyone's mind so that, you know, you sit there and you think that somehow implementing Bitcoin is against democracy. It's quite the opposite. If anything, it enables us to have a proper setting for democracy to take place, because we now no longer have the government, okay, as a, you know, like a gatekeeper for the monetary policy. They're not needed.
And it's worse than that. It's worse than that, because the government, specifically in the United States, and you see this in Australia, you see this in the UK, it's going more than that. Not only do they want to control the money, but they're also wanting to control what you think. And now, who is this Facebook whistleblower? Because remember, we have Project Veritas came out with plenty of whistleblowers that were essentially saying Facebook is censoring speech. None of those got the royal treatment, but this person did. And I did a little bit of digging. Who is this whistleblower? Let's check it out. Again, guys, I want to specify, we do not lean left, we do not lean right. We lean for freedom of speech and the freedom for the individual to make his or own decisions. Back in the 1950s, during the McCarthy era, the right was actually the ones censoring speech. They were the ones going after the left. This time, just how the pendulum of power swings, right? It's the left in this country that unfortunately is the ones that are going after speech. So whether it's the right censoring speech or whether it's the left censoring speech, as Bitcoiners, we are fundamentally disagree with that. But anyways, I digress. I just want to specify. The Facebook whistleblower Frances Haugen has a record of donations to far-left Democrats and a history of raising issues about a purported bias while at previous employers, a Daily Wire review found. She is working with Democrat operatives to roll out her complaint and has the same lawyers as the anonymous Ukraine whistleblower whose allegations led to Donald Trump's impeachment, but who reportedly turned out to be then Vice President Joe Biden's top advisor of the country. Okay, anyways. That's convenient. Here's a tweet from Jack Posobiec. Frances Haugen was part of the Facebook civil integrity team in 2020. That means she was part of the team that censored the Hunter Biden story. If you guys remember the famous Hunter Biden story, they found this laptop, without getting too much into details, that implied Joe Biden's son in some very sketchy things, right? So apparently, she's for censoring that, anyways. Maybe there's a conflict of interest, but I digress. What was the result of, this hearing? Well, check it out. Facebook calls for new standard rules for the internet after the whistleblowing hearing. Let's see what people think. Like clockwork. Here is a meme from Dylan LeClaire. CIA. And again, it's what I'm telling you guys. The government has lost their monopoly on information. They're freaking out. That's what the internet did to them. And before I end this segment and I move on to the next piece of news, check out this letter from one of the protesters that got caught up in the January 6th protest, insurrection, whatever you want to call it. Again, we are not political on this show. I want you guys to pay attention to what the government did and why Bitcoin is so important, why censorship-resistant money is so important. Check out one of the letters, okay? The Democrat-controlled FBI have used the Patriot Act to cancel those arrested for the event of January 6th. Our banking, credit, financial insurances, and occupational license have been erased from existence. So again, they're going after, again, we don't lean left, we don't lean right, but they're going after political opponents, and they're shutting down their bank accounts. They're deplatforming them from finance. This isn't social media, from finance. Imagine what's going to happen with central bank digital currencies. Picture that. Forget about deplatforms and social media. Picture deplatforming as in cutting you off unless you're a good citizen and the social credit system has a good score for you. That's what's at stake here, ladies and gentlemen. Bitcoin or slavery. Because the powers that be, they don't want you thinking freely, and they don't want you transacting freely. This is all about control, and we brought the receipts today. Phil?
I'm just... Anyways, it's unbelievable. But look, I just wanted to say, I don't even think they need CBDCs anymore, man. The more I think about it, look at what they're doing. I mean, you just showed evidence. It's like they don't even need the CBDCs to cut you off from the system anymore. It's like you could they go around and erase your records at every different thing, at every different turn. And this is crazy. I believe we've never seen this.
No.
I mean, it doesn't matter. We may all not agree on our, political, opinions and stuff like that. But we should all be able to agree that, we could have the spirit of conversation and the spirit of debate. I mean, it's like to cut somebody off from that, hey, listen, at the end of the day, we're all human beings. Well, what if that person is, regardless of whether they're doing something like this or not, what if they're taking care of some elderly sick person? What if some family member, they need money to pay for this? And I mean, look, regardless of political opinion, we're all humans. This is psychotic, right? I never thought I would see this here. Never thought I would see this.
Or what if you were born in Afghanistan? What if you were born in Venezuela? You cannot open a bank account in this country if you were born in those places because you are deemed unbankable just because of the place that you happen to be born in.
Again, and this is supposed to be, this is the banking system for the world. This is the world that the central bankers, right? This is what I told you about before, right? Like they believe that they are better architects of this reality than anybody else. They believe, you know what I mean? We were talking about before about the governments being the money printers. We're wrong. It's the central bankers that are absolutely the money printers. The governments take the handouts. And as Nico showed in a previous video, the government asks the central bankers what to do. So like, this is just disgusting all around.
This is disgusting, and this is absolutely terrifying. But before you guys get too depressed, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We are winning. And let me show you why we are winning. They are terrified of what's going on in El Salvador. Let me show you. This is an article that came out today. Check out the wording. I want you guys to pay attention to the wording. The wording is very important. Crypto's future could soon look a lot like the US dollar. It's the wording that's important. The dollar is entering the crypto era, and the US government is poised to give its clearest signal yet on how it will happen. The guidance will come through a trio of pending reports related to public and private efforts to digitalize, again, the world's reserve currency. They're planting a flag here, okay? First, the Federal Reserve will release a paper as soon as this month on the U.S. payment system that's expected to provide direction on whether the country should issue a so-called central bank digital currency. Soon after, the Fed Bank of Boston will publish long-awaited research. Again, keyword here, guys, signal. An open source computer code on technology that could underpin a digital dollar. So they want you to let you know that their central bank digital currency is crypto and it's open source. We both know that's bullshit. Anyways, when put together, the three reports will provide a roadmap for the broader financial community and how the Fed and Biden administration see the dollar's crypto future playing out, the extent to which they embrace adoption of a digital currency, and here it is again, and the guardrails they may see as necessary to protect individuals and investors in what's now a largely unregulated corner of the market. Again, they want to let you know that crypto open source is good, but without regulation, without those guardrails, it's not possible, right? Again, and this is because they're shitting their pants, right? Why are they shitting their pants? Because Nayib Bukele and what is happening in El Salvador. There's 1.8 million bank accounts in El Salvador. And now there's 3 million Salvadorians are using the Chivo app. That means that almost half the country, without guardrails and regulations, are more banked than without their guardrails and regulations.
Where's the committee, Nico?
Wait, the Matrix is breaking. What's going on here?
We need a committee.
What is going on here? This is impossible. Wait, they needed the guardrails. They needed the regulations. This is the truth. It's coming out, and that's why they're releasing those types of articles. That's why they're calling for more censorship. That's why they're doing all these things, because the governments are freaking out that people are talking freely, which is why they want to censor the internet, like Facebook called conveniently right after that convenient whistleblower. And this is why they're releasing central bank digital currencies in an effort to maintain control. Again, do we know that for certain? Of course we can't know that for certain, but I'm just laying out the evidence. It's obvious. It's clear as day. All it takes is just to connect the dots. They are petrified of what's going on in El Salvador because it proves that you could have a monetary network without guardrails and regulations and the world does not burn down. Phil?
Regulations, guardrails, committees, policy. It's buzzword bingo. They choose some buzzwords, they put them together, they throw them at the wall, and they put together a paper that makes it sound like they know what they're doing. Look, it's exactly what you said. You know, I mean, they are absolutely planting a flag. They're saying, listen, we are going to have a digitally backed dollar. I have to be honest. I am extremely curious to see the shitcoin that the U.S. government crafts for everyone.
But they want to let you know it's open source.
Oh, no, it's open source. Yeah, no, they're using open source code. Like other people have used that code in the past. You know, it's great that it's based on open source code. That's fantastic. But, excuse me, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be open source.
And they want to let you know it's a crypto. They're very specific. It's a crypto.
Well, you know what that is, right? It's really turds. That's really what it is. It's digital turd. So I am very curious to see the digital turd that they create so that we can make fun of it. I am looking forward to having it as part of the fail segment. And yeah, this is the battle rages on, my friend, right? The battle rages on. Bitcoin wins, and like, this is just hilarious.
It's hilarious and it's scary. It's hilarious and it's scary at the same time. Guys, put your seatbelts on. Self-custody your Bitcoin. Take it off your exchange. Run a node. That is how you protect yourself for what's to come. But anyways, Phil, there was an open source software release today. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
Software releases. All right, everyone, we've got fully noded version 0.2.27. That is a Bitcoin node. Check it out down below in the show notes.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. All right, guys. Get your tickets for Bitcoin 2022. It's going to be awesome. It's the biggest Bitcoin conference ever. Meet the plebs in Meet Space. Get your tickets now. The prices do go up. And take advantage of the 10% off in the link description. Check out CryptoCloaks.com for the best 3D printed Bitcoin merch, like the Bitcoin Grenade, like the Honey Badger. Get 5% off the store with the link down below. Check out Citadel 21 for the best Bitcoin cultural zine. It's news by plebs, for plebs, awesome stories. Get yourself a physical copy. There's only 1,000 made. Citadel21.com. And of course, Pirate Hash for some awesome Bitcoin trinkets. They make a board game. They make this awesome source code poster. It's by the guy that did the UI for Bit. Awesome. Check it out, piratehash.com. Guys, that was our show. If you enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash that like button. And of course, if you want to continue hearing the catastrophic fails from the people that want to censor us and the Panama Papers psyop crazy, definitely, and the Bitcoin news from the people perspective, definitely consider subscribing, and we will see you tomorrow, guys, for another episode of Simply Bitcoin.
Let's connect the dots together and stop the central bankers.